just let them by, let them find a seat. I've got my notes here once again. If this thing doesn't crash, I'm in good shape. How was dinner last night? We had a lot of people at that party. Yeah. Thanks to Eclipse. They're one of our largest sponsors, and we appreciate their dinner. That was wonderful. Let's see, what else? A few other side notes. Today is really when things, if they were started before, now we're starting to shift into high gear. And after this morning session, we have Rick Beach's safety seminar, and that'll go on until about noon. We take a break for lunch. Lunch is on the exhibit room floor. That's downstairs in the North Hall. Just walk down to the escalators, walk downstairs, doors open, walk in, make yourself at home. Don't forget, we have aircraft and demos out at the airport. There are cars available, all you got transportation available, the vans. One of them is supposed to be stationed, actually both of them are stationed out at the airport. Simply call the number that I've sent everybody, and I don't have it memorized myself because I don't seem to get out there very often. Anyway, just call that number, they'll send a van in, pick you up, and go out there and look at your next airplane. Let's see, what else have we got? That's about it. Without further ado, by the way, this is live streamed, and I believe we're online at this point. Is that true? Give me a thumbs up. All right, we have live streaming. It should be recorded for your later viewing pleasure. And without any further comment from me, here's Andy, our president.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody having a good time so far. It has been a remarkable first few days of the expanded migration. Wow. Aviation, tours, neat stuff. Thank you, Craig, very much for you and your entire team for putting together the entire migration this year.
It was definitely a team effort.
Very well worth it, and you'll get some more recognition besides the well-remembered on my part folks coming up and telling you exactly what you need to do to make migration better next year. And they're there to tell you about it.
Hey, that's all right. We listen. Doesn't mean we necessarily do it, but we listen.
I do want to thank you guys very much for being here for the largest single COPA event of any year, our migration, because this is your association, this is your group, you are the critical mass that makes COPA what it is. Going to go over a little bit this morning. As soon as I hit there we go, hitting the return. For the rest of you guys who will be using the slides, it's the return key. Just a brief idea of the agenda this morning. We'll be going through bringing in our incoming board of directors. Rick will give us an idea of where we stand financially, and then we'll be breaking it down to the individual board responsibilities, including CPPP, CDM, Gil's work on membership and retention. Craig will talk a little bit remarkably about migration. I'm going to be pretending to be Roger Whittier, which means I got to grow a beard real fast, to talk about the incredibly successful cost of ownership initiative. Timm Preusser will be talking about our international events, and then we're going to be covering some new initiatives that we've got coming forward here in the upcoming year or so. And then finally, one of the last things we want to do is we have some very special recognitions this morning that we want to make very much a note of. And then we'll open it for the time we have remaining for you guys for questions, comments, and denunciations. And looking forward to that. To everybody out there, and I think Curt Sanford might be up this morning having some coffee. Morning, Curt. Good to see you. And for everybody else joining us on the interweb, thank heavens that you have this kind of connectivity. For those who just came, you've probably all seen the fact that part of your migration package includes the wireless package here at the Convention Center. For this morning, because we are live streaming, I ask that you disconnect from the wireless here at the Convention Center so we don't overload it. We're all techies. We've all got various kinds of great wireless devices going right now. That's kind of flooding the old bandwidth. So if you could please, if you haven't already disconnected from the local wireless, if you could please. Appreciate it very much. We'll start with the state of your organization. This has been a year of incredible growth and development. Our membership has grown, our training opportunities have grown, we have solidified our financial security, and we are beginning to develop a very robust internet infrastructure. Take a look at these numbers. We are growing and continue to grow. This is our total active membership. Our paid memberships are a little bit less. But the thing that we need to remember, it's all of you here today and those of you watching on the internet who have talked to friends, who've gotten people to join, who've talked to other Cirrus pilots and said, what, you haven't heard about COPA? And have sat there and taken the time to talk to them. Our growth has increased, has more than doubled in our rate of growth over the last year. That growth is directly attributable to Gil's hard work and your hard work as members to talk to other people who are Cirrus pilots, maybe want to become a Cirrus pilot, maybe are just interested. Thank you all. You are helping grow this organization. When you think that there's roughly 5,600 airframes out there and we have these kinds of numbers, that means you have really helped make COPA a true voice in the Cirrus and the general aviation community. Thank you all very, very much. I really appreciate it. You know, I get to sit and watch all this great stuff and go, wow, these people are really working. Training, of course, has increased. You can see 13 CPPP events in the last year. We've been gone out overseas. Rick will give you a further discussion of our recent remarkable event down in Brazil, our first expansion there, and our beginning to increase our communications and conversations with the folks at COPA Brazil. CDMs continue, and you people are the ones who make the CDMs. One of the great things to see is the grassroots nature of the CDM, where a member says, contacts Carol and soon to be our incoming member of the board, and says, I want to do a CDM. Get me qualified, get me up to speed. They do it, and then they reach out. One of the remarkable things I've noticed about CDMs is they bring in pilots who are not necessarily COPA pilots or Cirrus pilots. A recent one that was held in Minnesota a while back, they had a bunch of Bonanza drivers and other folks there who came away from it saying, we don't get that kind of thing. Wow, thanks a lot. And very wisely said, well, thank COPA. You know? And by the way, it's the best $65 a year you'll ever spend, at least in aviation. Financial stability, and Rick will be here shortly to give you some more concrete numbers, but these are the big things to remember or to take away from this. We've set aside the money, sequestered it, as it were, to use the S word, for the infrastructure, okay, as we develop and move into 2.5, COPA 2.5. I assure you, I have seen parts of COPA 2.5. Do not be afraid. Trust me. And I'm not from the government. We have assigned emergency reserves. Oh, holy cow, we need to spend money on that. That money is now identified, put away. It's our rainy day fund. And we've really worked, and again, through Rick's hard work, to develop a very much more adult, I don't want to use that word, let's say sophisticated form of budgeting processing, so we can more accurately predict what our expenses are going to be and properly plan for that. Finally, COPA 2.5, that's in development now. The team has been meeting. They've got a meeting upcoming. And of course, we're still working, and Rick will give you a much more thorough description of what we're doing to develop our 501c3 charitable foundation. This is a work that we have discovered is a lot more complicated than it used to be just a few short years ago, with increased IRS attention to unfortunate actions by others in previous years to abuse the 501c3 system. So now everybody who's applying for a 501c3 has to jump through a lot more regulatory hoops. The board of directors, your board of directors for this last year is as following, and we are faced with 4 people who are either have a term expiring or in Carol Jensen's case is going to step away so she can tell us how things used to be when she was on the board of directors. She's done an incredible job. Carol, like everybody else on the board of directors, has been a terrific go-to person for me, especially for me this first year, when I would alternate between contacting members of the board going, what about this, and contacting Curt and saying, Curt, you never told me about, and fill in the blanks. You know, he made it seem like, oh man, you just have to show up and look good. Well, yeah, thanks. Snagged me. But with recognizing we had members expiring, we established a committee. Again, a member, a volunteer, Scott Williams, took over the nominating committee, sought input from you, talked to the members who had a term available, who merely were term expiring, not term limit expiring, and looked at and came up with what we have here. The returning members, of course, are over on your left. On your right, Roger, Timm, Gil, and to take Carol Jensen's place, Trip Taylor has been selected by the nominating committee. There were no further nominees. Under our bylaws, when there is not a contested or more people nominated than there are slots, they come in under selection by the fact that they have been nominated. So I would like to invite Trip Taylor to come up and join us here. Got a seat right over here. And welcome our new member of the board, Trip Taylor. Trip will probably be most likely be taking the CDM portfolio from Carol.
Not most likely.
Yeah, well, you just heard it, Trip. Congratulations, you are our new CDM director. So this is the guy to go to. That's not a light at the end of the tunnel.
See the tray.
And these will be your officers for the next year. I want to encourage you all to consider becoming involved, if you are not already involved, in the activities of COPA. It is a great thing to do. I can't even begin to describe what you learn, and it gives you a chance to meet many, many more COPA members. Even if it's, hosting a CDM, volunteering to be an introducer at migration, just getting up and introducing the next speaker. There's a number of different activities, and I encourage you all to continue to make the strongest thing, the strongest part of migration, which is the volunteers. You are COPA. It's not a bunch of people telling you what to do. You make this organization. It is indeed all about the volunteers and the members. By simply getting in your planes, and in a few cases having to visit your best friends at TSA, and coming here, you already showed a motivation and a desire to be a part, an active part of this group. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Those of you out there who couldn't make it but are watching, the folks who post, the folks who lurk, the people who renew, I thank all of you. You've made that commitment, and it makes this organization what it is. Without further ado, I'm going to let Rick come up now and talk to you a little bit about the nitty-gritty of what makes us work.
Thank you, Andy. So the financial highlights start with, we have money in the bank. The treasurer always likes to know those things. We've had this membership growth, which translates into income. As Andy indicated, we have a reserve from our amount of money that we have as a surplus each year, put it into a reserve for expenses. Migration last year produced a surplus that helped the safety programs running a modest deficit and other programs operating as a break even. Those of you that like to see, are you really doing it or not, here are some numbers. Growth over the years, total cash and assets has grown to over $750,000 so far in Q1, the end of March. Our liabilities have grown as well. And oddly, if you try and take a snapshot of what COPA's finances are, we have the CPPPs, we get prepaid income, and then we get a whole bunch of expenses over the course of the year. Migration, we get a whole bunch of income, and then nothing happens until all the bills come in, which typically is June or July. So if you take a snapshot, you don't get a very good answer as to what's happening in the organization. Now, fortunately, our year-end at December coincides with not much COPA activities in terms of income and expenses. So the year-end actually is a pretty good way to look back. Total equity has grown, and the reserve, we've taken out of that equity a reserve to be able to pay for the web infrastructure. We have a strong cash position. If somebody knows how to make lots and lots of money with cash and a reliable income stream, oops, so we're not making much money on it, but we've got a bunch. We also manage foreign bank accounts, which makes us an interesting target for the U.S. Treasury, who would like to know information about that. And because we do business in Europe, we do it in euro currency. We do business activities in Australia. We have an Australian bank account for that. Membership growth, that helped fund at your best investment, $65. The surplus for migration was about $62,000 on about $160,000 to $170,000 of expenses last year. This year, we put the reserve in there. Here's a picture of the scale of the income for COPA activities. Blue is the membership or corporate contribution, corporate income from membership. The green is the migration, all of the sponsorship and members that pay for participating in COPA's migration activity. Regional activities, there's some income for that. International events, so to give you a scale, international events are about $60,000. And then you've got safety programs, which is about $250,000. So there's a significant amount of activity going on that totals about $750,000. If you look at it in terms of income and expenses, what comes in, what goes out, when I started showing this, I realized, we really need to point out to people that we have accumulated the reserve over several years. And so if you look at the membership income, that's about $220,000 on this chart, we have a lot less expenses for what we term membership things. The expenses are pretty well contained, except for that reserve. And so in the light reddish, you see another bar of $100,000, which accumulates over 3 years, the reserve that we put in place for the web infrastructure. The safety programs, $280,000 in income, about $300,000 in expenses, runs a modest deficit. And the migration ran last year a modest profit. And then you can see the scale. We do regional events, they're pretty break even. We do European events, they're break even. So the organization has kind of got a golden touch. It's well managed by volunteers, amazingly so. And its fiduciary responsibilities seem to be well carried out. Safety programs. Oh, I wanted to talk about the deficit. One of the interesting things about our expenses is that we, in the CPPP, hire great instructors. And we pay them for putting their signature on endorsing participation in the CPPP. So we have an independent contractor relationship where we set the expectations. This is what you're going to do. And the attendance over the last year has grown. So we've had the luxury of more CPPPs and more people going to those CPPPs, which means we need more instructors. And one of the weird things about the expenses is that getting the instructors to some of these places is not cheap. Oh, but you can do an advance purchase on your airline ticket. And it's like, not anymore. The difference between buying it the week before and 2 months before is like 20 bucks. So, and then of course we go to some places that are great for training, but they're not so great for regional airlines. And so our expenses related to bringing instructors have gone up. Fortunately, Nation Air and Cirrus Aircraft are sponsors of the safety programs, and their contributions have continued to keep the programs closer to break even. We increased the fees. We increased the fees and we grew attendance. So our safety programs, good value for money is the answer there. And we've added sort of more of these. We've gone to Australia 3 times. We've gone to Brazil this spring. Timm Preusser continues to run 3 events in Europe. So the global reach you'll hear more about is important. In summary, the financials, we're in a healthy financial position. I'd like you to feel confident that there is prudent management of those program activities. And given our financial position, there's an opportunity for program growth, both in terms of funding things and finding ways to spend more money. With that, I'd like to spend a few minutes describing some of those activities related to the Cirrus pilot proficiency programs, and then invite Carol to come and talk about the critical decision-making seminars. It's a portfolio of activities. The CPPP, the CDMs are the 2 specific fly-in kinds of events. And we do additional things by promoting and discussing safety-related topics on the COPA forums. We do things in terms of accident reconstructions, diagnosis of what happened. Several of the instructors have a keen interest in that. And so we end up with a pretty interesting set of ideas. For instance, some of the simulator scenarios that have come out of accident reconstructions, accident analyses. And then lately getting involved in NTSB accident investigations. The CPPP has always been about safety programs, procedures, risk assessment, and the CDMs have taken an approach, largely through Mason Holland and Carol's work, on pre-flight planning. And so we started to realize that we needed a way to deal with the very rich set of suggestions and ideas that came from people who specialize in risk management. And if you'd been at the migration a couple years ago, John and Martha King spoke about risk management. And so there have been a number of opportunities in the COPA community to take those ideas and turn them to action. And the rationalization I show here, where the CDMs took the FAA acronym PAVE for pre-flight risk assessment, gave us the opportunity to focus the CDM did it on PAVE, and allows us to focus the CPPP on procedures, the 5 Ps in flight, assessment of what's changed and what are you going to do about it, and then the emergency procedures, where we added consider CAPS and the acronym for fly the airplane, to analyze the situation, decide what to do, and do it. So we wrap that in the context of a pilot proficiency program, acknowledging that it was modeled after the Bonanza program. And we've added new course materials. We added a turbo section to the engine management. Cliff Iser and John Fiskus have done a considerable amount of work to put together updated materials specifically around emergency psychology and risk evaluation and mitigation. I've added a CAPS decision-making course that rounds out all the things that we've come to know about it. And Roger has added a course on maintenance familiarization. And if you have any knowledge about the statistics for maintenance-induced failures on our airplanes, the familiarization about maintenance procedures is a safety intervention. The more that pilots know about the ways in which your airplane gets managed becomes a benefit for you in terms of both recognizing and dealing with difficulties. One of the interesting things I watched this past month was the instructors automating no, I guess not really automating so much as supporting the capturing of training activities in a CPPP. And so they put together an iPad PDF application for them to record what it is that people doing flight recurrent training in a Cirrus pilot proficiency program did. And so this is the front page of that document, to work with the pilot to see what is it they're planning to do, how are they going to prepare for it, what did they do, and then a set of checkboxes that indicate whether they discussed it, whether they practiced it, and whether if they did something that had a practical test standard criteria, they met that PTS standard. And so you see here two of the pages, and it's an easy thing apparently for the instructors to do this on their iPads in the cockpit while the training is going on, and it's yet another excuse to distract the pilot. And then all of a sudden something fails. Anyway, so this has become an interesting record of the training, and it makes for an interesting conversation with the instructor and the pilot at the end. We do give out FAA wings credit for these participatory courses, both the ground courses and the flight recurrent training, and so we've given out 1,300 credits in 18 months. Did you know that, Sherry? That's in 18 months. So the value of the wings credit, if you do the recurrent training, is that that's more intensive than what you need to do for a flight review. So if you do the ground and flight at a CPPP, that waives the need for you to do a flight review, and you're good for another couple of years. We've created wings credit for the critical decision-making course, and as a national FAST team member, if you know what that is, we have the authority to be able to create courses, give wings credit for things that have a distinct syllabus that the FAA FAST team agrees to. Accident reconstructions, people have been telling me there's another AvWeb story out there that links to some of these. When AvWeb and Flying Magazine picked up the NTSB probable cause report about the fatal aerobatics in a Cirrus at Boynton Beach, I wrote to Glenn, the author, and said, hey, you know, there's an animation that we created out of the data. It added 27,000 views to that YouTube video. So getting national exposure for things that we've talked about extensively inside this community, I think is a contribution from COPA back to general aviation. And the way it gets done, the NTSB has the data, X-Plane has a capability of taking a data file, and then you go get a Cirrus model, and X-Plane flies that according to the data. The data came from the airplane, so it's a reconstruction of that in an animation. And then, as I say, AvWeb and Flying Magazine picked that up, and we got coverage. Pretty neat. So COPA Safety, that's the name of the YouTube channel, and as a result, people have been subscribing to that channel or know where to go look for it. I do want to acknowledge the COPA forum discussions related to safety. These are often the most highly viewed discussions in any time period, and historically, they're among the top in all time. And we're talking 20, 30,000 views, 200 to 400 to 500 posts. And when I described that to some of the accident investigators, Cirrus, BRS, other companies, and the NTSB investigators, okay, fine. Some of them are funny pictures. Some of them are a little distracting bird walks. But the substance of what people contribute in terms of weather analysis, flight procedures, understanding the stresses that pilots might be under, it's a really fascinating compendium of really fascinating insights and a few judgments and other weird things. Come at 10 o'clock and I'll talk to you a little more about that. But as a whole, it's an amazing resource, and it's created by volunteers who just have a real passion for trying to understand, talk about, and improve people's ability to fly in Cirrus accident. Fly in Cirrus accident. Yeah, I'm looking at the next slide, and you see how confused your brain can get. Imagine trying to fly and talk at the same time. Don't. So I wanted to say a little bit about NTSB accident investigations. COPA has been involved with the NTSB. One of the most dramatic was a COPA member found an error. and the factual report published by the NTSB that led to a probable cause report in the Indianapolis fatal accident. And the investigator was so impressed both by the diligence of the COPA community, A, to find the mistake, and B, to point out how the mistake was created, but then just in this context of the interest of a community to go to that level to figure out what had happened is the investigator miscalculated the weight and balance of an overloaded Cirrus SR-22 that got into a mush condition. And they actually did flight tests to try and figure out, was this a contributing factor to the accident? So we've had a long conversation, a long period of time where people have talked to and dealt with accident investigations. And in this most recent parachute failed to deploy accident, Addison, Texas, the NTSB investigator invited the Cirrus Owners and Pilots Association to be a party. In my safety talk in a little bit, I'll describe some more about that. But that's a formal invitation. It's covered by regulatory language, and it comes with a bunch of obligations. Right now, the only party in COPA that's bound by those obligations is me. And if I bring in somebody else, they have to sign the same form and become obligated. All the public information, this is why you should know that when I answer questions about it, all the public information about that investigation will come from the NTSB. And so anyone that's a party to that, Cirrus employees, BRS employees, the rocket makers, and the FAA people are supposed to not talk about this because all the public information should come through the NTSB investigator. However, you may have noticed, if you're paying attention, that Dale Klapmeyer came onto the forum shortly after the accident investigation began and had an authorized by the investigator in charge statement published that said, quote, "No conclusive root cause identified." And that's still true. So the investigation is very active, and the public information is coming from the NTSB in this form. And I can assure you that there are lots of smart people that have come up with lots of suggestions in the COPA forum, and you have no idea. There are lots more that these investigators have come up with. I would like to make a few points about the number of people that are involved in these things. And I'd like to acknowledge, if you would stand when I embarrass you with your name, Sherry Taylor, who's the co-chair of the CPPP. Carol Jensen, who runs the CDM. Trip Taylor, who's the one who's revising history. Mike Radomsky, where's Mike? Is he standing? Yeah, he got it. At least one person got it. Mike created the Partner in Command course, which has a significant impact on the right seat flyers in our airplanes. Timm Preusser from Europe. Thank you, Timm. And then for posterity, I have a list of the instructors that have done CPPP flight instruction for many years. And Trip, you're one. Stand. I'd like you to stand. Trip. John Fiskus, I recognize. Cliff, I recognize. Who else is on my list that I don't see? Oh, Bill Graham.
Right behind you.
Behind you, Rick.
Oh, hi. Oh, I was getting to you. Bill Graham. Stand up, Mr. Bill. Ellen Chernick. Anybody else I'm missing? These are instructors that have chosen, they're COPA members. Most of these people are up the list. They're all COPA members. And those folks here have come to the CPPP. That's where we pay you to come. They came here, and I'd like you to give all of these people a round of applause. With that, Carol, you're next.
Good. I shouldn't have sat down. Okay, good morning. Good morning. First question I have is, how many people have been, whoop, I'm short, to a CDM? Okay, let me reverse that question. How many haven't been to a CDM? All right, shame on you. You need to go. Okay. Well, we've already had a couple of introductions, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but what I do want to do is tell you a little bit about what it is, and a little bit about how you go about getting to attend one of these. And I think what's really important is what it is. Mason Holland and Mike Radomsky really started this back in the early 2000s when Cirrus was brand new, and of course with small numbers of aircraft, 1 or 2 accidents makes it look like, you know, it's a huge percentage of the fleet. So it becomes scary. And so I think both Mike and Mason recognized that we needed to be doing something over and above traditional flight training to get people's attention on the risks of flight. And what it really is it's not a seminar in the true sense. There is something at the beginning that talks about statistics, goes through Cirrus accidents, talks about the null report. Everybody here know what the null report is? Okay, who doesn't? Okay, some more. Read the null report, go on AOPA. But at any rate, it's an annual review of general aviation accidents, and of course, when we go through and look at the Cirrus accidents, we're no different, okay? It's the pilot, not surprisingly. And what it is really, it's kind of a hangar flying event, or that's really what the intention is. It's intended to be somewhat informal, it's facilitated, there's materials prepared. I've had the great privilege of doing it for the last 6 years. It's both a rewarding and sometimes painful job to go through every accident every year and read about it and try to understand what did this pilot do, why did they get into that situation, and not really so much to be judgmental, but to really try to figure out what is it that caused this pilot to do something. I mean, could I be that pilot? Could I be that person getting in that situation? So we go through a lot of data, and we really do case studies. This is a Mac.
Return.
Hit return.
What's return? Oh, return. Why, no, that's not it. That didn't work. Okay, well, I don't care. I'll leave it there. All right, we'll leave it there. So at any rate, how do you set one up? Okay, basically, it's your responsibility. If you want to have a CDM, okay, what we request is that you organize it locally. You find an FBO, an airport, you pick a date. Normally do it Saturday mornings, and it's a half a day, and it's free, and COPA will provide lunch. Okay, how do you set it up? And what COPA will also do is provide the materials and the facilitator. Up until now, up until today, okay, I've been the person to contact, and you can still contact me, but Tripp has graciously agreed to take on the assignment. After 6 years, I thought it would be time for some new blood, and I'm really happy Tripp is doing it, and I will continue to be a facilitator. So if you are in my area in Texas, we just did one in Sugar Land in March and had 30 people and had a great time. Who was there in Sugar Land? I know, yeah, a couple folks were there. What'd you think? Yeah, I mean, I think people get a lot out of it because it really allows pilots to talk to each other and people with different experiences. It's great for low-time pilots. High-time pilots often discover that there's a lot of high-time pilots having accidents in Cirrus. So I think it's really it's a great opportunity to just discuss decision-making and become aware of risks, you know, that you don't know what you don't know, and this is an opportunity to kind of broaden your horizons without getting yourself in that circumstance. So please contact me or Tripp if you want one. We'll set one up for you. Thanks.
Good morning. Last year in July at the M10, I talked to you a little bit about our growth initiative, and we were just barely into the program at that point in time, so it was a lot of what we were going to do and what we were looking forward in the future. Now we have about a year and a half's results and return there. Basically, we have started the initiative at the beginning of 2012, and over that first year, we doubled the growth rate. We were growing at about 5% per year. We are now up to about 11%, and we added 357 net new members. I say net new members because we have a fairly high turnover rate, but as Andy indicated, we have a class of membership, a trial membership, where people come in, they try it, they go on the web, and then they decided that maybe I'm not a Cirrus owner or pilot, and I'm just there to take a look at it, and they drop out. So what we're looking at is paid memberships, people like you who actually pay the $65 a year. And that grew, as I said, 357 members. We ended at about 3,550 paid members at the end of the year. Basically, what we did is renew or strengthen the renewal process, and that was all by email in the past, and we added some direct mail. We created a new membership brochure, and one of the biggest pieces of this was a direct mail campaign to all of the non-COPA Cirrus owners, those people who had Cirrus but had joined COPA. And we essentially took the FAA registration, put that file against the membership file. 2,000 people dropped out, and we direct mailed them with the brochure and an invitation from, at that time, Curt to join. We had an amazing response rate. Any direct mail campaign that gets over 3% is considered pretty good. And we, over the period of that time, we were about 15% of those actually responded to us. So it was an amazing result, and that helped us. We also surveyed the lapsed members. We said, why did you leave? And as I said, many of them were non-pilots or non-owners, and they were just curious and wanted to come aboard. But we learned a lot of things about how those who had joined felt. And a couple of the big takeaways was a fairly big percent, about 10%, said that they didn't see the value in the $65 they'd spent, which was sort of a stunner. But as we dug into it, we found they weren't web-centric, they didn't attend events, and they really, all they got was the magazine. And of course, then we had those who essentially stopped flying or sold their airplanes. So we came to a better understanding as to why people didn't stay with COPA. I'll remind you again, I told you last year, another part that stuck out was some people were turned off by the civility of the forums. They just felt that it was too rough and tumble for them, and they dropped out. And I think our civility has improved over the last year anyway. I guess you have to have a little thick skin. We also developed a brochure for all the brokers and the people who made contact with new owners and provided those brochures. In 2013, we've developed a new single-page brochure and provided it to all of the Platinum training centers and all the service centers. So they have a supply and they know how to get additional supply, and we've asked them, if you have a customer who's not a COPA member, please provide them with this information that tells them what we're all about and how to join. We direct mailed the new non-COPA members that have Cirrus, and that's dropped from about 2,000 to about 556, I think is the number that we sent brochures to, and that just went out a couple months ago, so we're starting to see returns from that. Cirrus has stepped up, and they are now providing a free membership with each new G5 they sell, and also if they are made aware of a new used owner, they will provide a membership. So that's a great program. I'm going to describe in a second the new member recruiting process that you may have read it in the Cirrus pilot. That is just getting started, but the idea is take it to the airport level and give you help in recruiting new members. And as you can see, through May, we've continued to grow. Our size now is about 3,650, so net about 100 new members since the beginning of the year. So what's the new member recruiting process? Well, I'll tell you how it works by telling you my experience recently I was coming back from a flight, and I noticed a Cirrus being backed into a hangar that I knew had just been sold. So I went up, introduced myself, and the fellow had just bought the hangar, and he had owned his Cirrus for a couple of years, just had started flying out of Hilton Head. Thank you. So I introduced myself, and we chatted a little bit, and then I asked him, are you a COPA member? He said, no, I'm not. So I said, well, I think you might enjoy it, and we were going to have a fly-in in Savannah. I invited him. He was going to be away, so I asked him for his card. He didn't have a card, and I said, here's my email address. Send me an email with your email address. He did. I emailed him and asked him for his mailing address and told him I would supply him the information that he needed to consider COPA. Our process is that I email Donna in the COPA office, and you can do the same thing. You meet somebody, just give her their name and address, basic information. She will fill out an invitation that says, Gil Williamson has invited you to become a member of COPA. It has a letter from Andy inviting the member to join or the non-member to join, giving him basic information. And we have a membership brochure, a copy of the latest Cirrus pilot in a nice envelope, and it's there within a week. I gave him an email. I said, did you receive the information? He said, yes, and I've joined COPA. It was that simple. It took me a couple emails, and then I waited another week, sent him another email, and asked him if he had gone on the forum, if he was having any trouble or any questions I could ask. We have a new member. It's that simple, and all you have to do is keep your eyes open for new member possibilities at your airport or as you're flying around. Get their business card or email address, and the rest is very simple. So those are the initiatives. We're going to continue to manage our membership because it's good for COPA. It makes us financially stronger. We have more people attending our events, so they're more fun. As you know, we create, as Brick just indicated, we create safer pilots, so it makes the skies safer. We make more friends and we have more fun. So I encourage you all, keep your eyes out for potential COPA members. If you do, it's very simple. Just shoot an email to the office. And by the way, if that member or potential member joins, we extend your membership by 6 months, so there's a little return on investment.
Hi, I'm not Roger Whittier. He's better looking and a lot smarter than me. But Roger sends his regrets. He wished he could have joined us here today. However, he has the joy of being a new grandfather. And he felt that was a lot of fun, and as much as he loves you, he has the world's greatest grandchild right now and needs to spend some time with them. Roger, if you're up having a little coffee with us this morning, congratulations, and we do miss you, and we'll see you next year. We will also see you at a lot of CPPPs. The cost of ownership has been a wonderful initiative that was started back at M10. If you remember, for those of you who were here last year, remember he introduced it at our annual meeting. So far, they've done 7 CPPPs. They are right now scheduled to do every other CPPP for the remainder of this year. They are also beginning the idea based on the American Bonanza Society's service clinic concept. It is in the initial planning stages. They're going to roll it out gradually. It will not be able to be at all CPPPs due to service center proximity and a couple of other things. We're holding off a little bit with very exact descriptions, but it will follow the idea that you bring your aircraft in, they go over it with a fine-tooth comb, develop a squawk list for you, just like at the ABS meetings for the Bonanzas, for you to be aware of issues that you might not have actually caught when you were doing your own personal inspections of your aircraft. COPA 2.5, you keep hearing that, it's coming. It is planned to have a lot more maintenance-related content. There'll be more things for you as owners and pilots available on that web page to help you be a more, dare I say it, Mike savvy, I do dare, owner with and know about the maintenance in your aircraft. The other point that Roger really emphasized that I make, Pat, Dale, is the incredible relationship that Roger has with Cirrus. When you guys post on the line something that is a airframe or any sort of maintenance related issue, Roger sees that. Roger calls his counterpart at Cirrus to say, hey, starting to see this, starting to see that, somebody has this or that. Know that we are talking to Cirrus. Cirrus is listening. It is a very cordial, productive, interworking relationship. Very strong, and it is Roger building those personal bridges that have allowed us to become much more involved and communicative back and forth with each other. Cirrus is well aware of the cost of ownership, parts availability, parts cost. We are working very closely with them and they with us to continue to make these aircraft affordable for us now and way down the line as well. Last thing he wanted to talk about a little bit was the Southeast Regional interest, which was really our first big new initiative in the regional group. Idea right now, testing out a hands-on owner program where under the direct supervision of a qualified A&P, they will work you through and walk you through the things that you can do on your Cirrus under the FARs, you as a pilot. Many of our owners, of course, are new to aviation. Gosh, Cirrus grew the pilot population. What a great idea. But a lot of folks coming into it don't know or are not quite clear or have a little bit of trepidation about actually doing some of the hands-on things that we as pilots are legally allowed to do. This clinic will begin to introduce them, or for some of us, reintroduce us to getting our hands dirty and doing stuff and standing back and going, wow, job well done, and I did it. So be sure to keep a look for that. The overall COO program will continue, and it will continue to build. And Roger has assured me that he promises me he'll be here at M12 to tell you a lot more about the things that are coming up and that are in development for that. And with that, I'll leave it to Timm to talk to us about the international programs.
Bonjour, bienvenue. Now, here in the room, good morning. Who is here who is not from New Zealand? Please, raise your hands. Raise your hands. Who is not from New Zealand? My point is just the word international is something which is in the eye of the beholder. So if I look from my German point of view, you are international, and if you look to me, I'm international. So we are all international in a way, and that's something we need to understand and appreciate. If you look to the COPA membership, did you realize that COPA members stem from 54 countries, including the United States? So we have members from countries which are rather small. Andorra is one of the smallest countries in the world, and we have just one member there. But there are other bigger countries in Europe, in Australia, in South America, and membership is growing there. And so the focus of COPA, of course, has to be looking deeper into what's going on in the world. Cirrus aircraft is doing a great job in exporting airplanes into all areas of the world, and it's our job in COPA to work with Cirrus and on our own to increase our membership in all these countries. So how many? Rough numbers only. Out of 5,500 Cirrus airplanes, approximately 4,000 are in the US, approximately 1,000 are in Europe, and 500 are in other parts of the world. We do have, as of today, 420 members in Europe. That's approximately 40% per airplane. We have outside Europe and the USA 275 more members. That's approximately 0.5 per airplane. That's good. These are good numbers. We need to grow them, and we have some initiatives going on there. Some members outside the United States, 121 in Germany, 109 in the United Kingdom, 110 Australia, 86 Canada, 37 France, 31 Netherlands, and so on. It sums up to the 54 countries I mentioned before. 22 in Brazil, and there are ways to increase our membership there, and Rick will be talking about that later. Now, what are the international activities? In Europe, we had 2002, the first European migration. We introduced the CPPP program in 2003 in Europe. I believe in 2010 we had the first CPPP in Australia, and this year in the first CPPP in Brazil. There are a lot of ongoing other efforts and regional events, fly-ins in the UK, in Germany, Hungary, and France. There are CDMs. We have had a number of CDMs in Europe over the last couple of years. We need to increase that. So there's a lot of work has been done, but lots of work has to be done. We have a number of very typical challenges if we look into international. In the majority of countries, the biggest hurdle to create and maintain membership in COPA is a language barrier. So this is something we have understood now. We do not have all the means available yet, but we need to work on that. Like COPApedia, that's a very good point. COPApedia is in English at that time. Why is COPApedia not also available in French or in Spanish or whatever? That's something we in COPA are thinking about and maybe can improve that. The forum participation is very limited outside the US, and that is not only a language problem, that is also a cultural problem. Not everybody, not every nation is keen to publish everything on a website. If you look to Facebook as a good example, very well distributed here in the States, but not in all countries of the world being used the same way. So we need to think a little bit about how we can get our members to contribute if they do not like to use a forum. We need to make sure in the future that important COPA messages on safety and on technical information is available in multiple languages. We have the CPPP program already translated into French. The Partner in Command course is available in French and in German. So there you see their first steps into getting more members addressed in their national language. Safety is a very, very important point. You know, everything in COPA is around safety. Safety record is worse than average in parts of the world, so we need to address pilots much better there. As an example, in Europe, only 50% of the COPA members have an instrument rating. That is much better than the average pilot population in Europe, where approximately 10% hold an instrument rating. So the Cirrus pilots are much better there, but there is still a lot of room for improvement. Recurrent training is in many countries not in the focus, and we need to reach out into the world if we want to improve our accident statistics. And in that respect, a better collaboration also with Cirrus aircraft is required to identify Cirrus pilots. We have a problem there. I'm talking to Adam Horn, who is now in England, and they have facing exactly the same problem. We have, I don't know how many, 500 used airplanes, Cirrus airplanes in Europe, which got sold from A to B and from B to C, and we are completely losing track who the owners and the pilots are. So that's the work we are doing right now. So there's some other things. The typical thing I'm doing is answering questions from Cirrus pilots about registrations of their aircraft, about insurance problems, about certification of parts which are under different regulations in Europe, or talking about their pilot's license and conversions from US license and European license. So that is a lot of stuff going on in the background of what we call international. However, we have a big other thing to talk about. That is the fun part in all of it. And we have a lot of fun in Europe and in other parts of the world. Just a short list here. The European migrations of the past years. This year in Bornholm in Denmark, previously in Varna, Bulgaria, in Menorca in Spain, in Prague, Czech Republic, and in Elba in Italy. Jersey, Channel Islands come to mind, in the Alps, in Radomsky, Austria, Toulouse, Berlin, and so on. So in Europe, we are going every year into a different country. We have more than 30 countries available, so that's a good thing to do. And there are, of course, fly-ins and the CPPPs going on. There was a beautiful fly-in last year in Hertelendi in Hungary, and this will be repeated this year. There are the CPPPs, only the last three in Baden-Baden in Germany, and Poznan and in Poland, and upcoming this month, or next month in July, I mean in Avignon in France. And I have brought some pictures here. It's not only European instructor, that is Curt Sanford describing a little bit about avionics. That was a CPPP in England. There we have Rick Beach coming over. That was in Baden-Baden in Germany. A happy bunch of Cirrus owners with their airplanes at the Baden CPPP, and the airplanes when the sun's just coming out early in the morning. That is a beautiful town of Poznan, and there we have fantastic full motion Cirrus simulator, which we are using at least once a year with the COPA community in Europe going there. That's a view out of that simulator, and really there's nearly no difference to an airplane anymore. That is a route we had to fly from, in that case, from Germany to Varna in Bulgaria, really to the most eastern part of Europe. For us, Gara and me, it was a long ride, but imagine people coming from England flying down all that route. We had something like 40, 50 airplanes there. We did a press conference because it was the first time in Bulgaria that such a big number of general aviation airplanes would have landed at that airport. We had TV and reporters coming. They were all very, very interested. Typical scenario here, what Mike is running in the other room, the partner in command course we are running in Europe as well. And of course, this is run by volunteers. Volunteers, like here in the States. So that's the evening a banquet in Varna where some prizes are given to the people who organized everything and helped and assisted. It's always a fun to see if all these building blocks come together to create a big, nice event. And then that's something what you are not doing here, but really, when it gets later in the evening in Europe, then yeah, we have a lot of fun over there. The flight briefing room in the morning, we had very, very bad weather in Varna last year, so a lot of concerns about how to fly out there. and very professional discussions. That's a picture showing Hertelendi in Hungary, where this year again we will have a fly-in. That's this year reception hangar in Bornholm, and view out of the tower to the aircraft park there already, reception committee. This is the island of Bornholm. It's not a big island, but it's beautiful. Many of the members just took rental bikes and went biking, or visited the shorelines. This airplane we found sitting in Copenhagen, where we picked up Dave Kleppmeyer and Will King. Thank you, both of you, for coming over. Now you see here a unique picture. You will never see that again. That is Dale and Bill squeezed in the back seat with life vests on, and so they have to ride as a passenger in the Cirrus airplane. I'm pretty sure they never did that in the past. So this is how Bornholm looks like. So just some impressions here, and some people attending, and the CDN course, and again honoring the volunteers in the evening. And that's the sunset in Bornholm, and that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Good morning again. Boy, looks like a lot of fun, right? Well, that's what this presentation is all about, having more fun. I mentioned before that we did a study of those who had left COPA. One of the things that jumped out at us was the fact that most of the people had not been to a COPA event. They essentially were not involved face-to-face with other COPA members. And as we studied this issue, we said, well, you know, all of us enjoy each other's company. We just did a survey of the southeastern area and said, what do you guys want to do? And they said, we'd like to get together. That was the #1 reason. Secondly, we'd like to do things related to aviation. Thirdly, we'd like to improve our skills. But getting together was the #1 answer from the people in the Southeast. And I think if we do, and when we do a survey around the country, we'll have the same thing. That's what migration's about, and that's why we're enjoying this particular event. A number of years ago, Myron Garfinkel came up with the idea of forming regions so we could do more things locally and have more activities of both socially and educationally. And so he developed this regional concept, and these are the regions. So if you want to know which region you happen to fall in, this is what it's all about. When we analyze the situation, we have activities, people put together events, but it was sporadic. There was really no structure or anybody that was thinking full-time about what can we do in this particular area, how do I get people together? And the difficulty of communication was basically an issue of how do you get information out? If you put it on the forum, it disappears. How can I communicate quickly? And if you're in the Southeast, are you going to be interested in something that's occurring in the Northwest? So we felt that we needed better communications within the region itself. So the initiative is basically the points that you see here. We thought, well, we're rookies at this. Let's figure it out by taking one region, taking our best ideas, getting a group together, and see what we might do to create more events, to have more things in the region. So we started a pilot in the Southeast region. We called for volunteers who wanted to be involved in putting things together and help put together a calendar. We developed a regional web portal. If you go to the forum, right at the top, you'll see Regions New. You click on that, it'll take you to a map. The Southeast region is in red. If you click on it, it'll take you to a separate web portal for the Southeast region. In progress, from what we've learned, will be a guide to those event coordinators or people on the team who are putting events together. So all the things we've learned, all the mistakes we've made, we'll try to boil it down to here's a cookbook on how to put a event together in the region. And then once we figured it out, which I would say that we're 80% there, we will move it to other regions throughout the country. And that's where we are right now. It's getting to the point we're going to start moving to other regions. And then ultimately, we're appropriate move internationally. We have a regional governor. Rick Hayes has taken on that responsibility. So he's thinking in all of his spare time, what can we do? How do I do more things in the Southeast region? TJ, sitting in the back room, Schimbecker is our regional webmaster. So if we need something to be put up on the web, email TJ or give him a call, and it's up almost instantaneously. And that's a sort of an interesting side story. TJ's got an international job, and he's traveling around the country, and right now he has a big assignment in Singapore. So we need something put up. Email goes to Singapore. Next morning it's up on the web. So the wonders of the internet continue to amaze, but we have instant response, even though the webmaster's half a world around. We have a number of volunteers, quite a number of volunteers, and I say it's in development because until you do an event, you really don't have the experience. So we have people right now who are planning, some of them sitting in this room, who are planning events or executing events within the region. So they're thinking about what can we do to give you guys more things to do. We did as I said, the web portal is live. We did a survey, and as I said, it was pretty interesting. The main reason people wanted to congregate is to socialize. So creating more opportunities for everybody to get together and have a good time and have a party is really what it's all about. We've had a number of events. They've been well attended. We've had a lot of fun. We just completed one in Savannah. We had a 2-day fly-in, and it was part educational, part we visited the Mighty 8th Air Force Museum, which is a fascinating place. We did a tour of a great city. We had cocktails and dinner, and everybody had a good time. Right now, the calendar is being filled up, so as you go to that portal, you'll see already there are events in September, October. We got a great trip being planned for Charleston. There's some things in the works in Florida, so a lot of things for us to pick from. The next step is to move to other regions, and we are meeting with people who are interested. We solicited volunteers who want to get involved, and we'll start putting governors in place in the other regions. The event guide is in process of being created. That should be done within another month. And we'll just continue to expand this and get more people involved and get more things going. So what have we found out about this whole process? The key ingredient are people like you who are interested in getting together and having fun and are willing to step up and help organize an event. And if you have that interest, email the COPA office, or here's my email address. Send me an email. You'll be hearing from us, and I think you'll have a lot of fun. It's rewarding, and you'll make a lot of friends, and it's an excuse to fly, and as you're experiencing here at M11, it's really where you get the most value out of COPA. Thank you.
And I have the pleasure of reporting on the COPA web infrastructure update that Curt Sanford has been leading on our behalf. COPA began with a web infrastructure in its earliest days. And so the website is the way by which COPA lives, breathes, grows, and struggles at times. We have an upgrade project underway that has a team of people. Curt is leading it on our behalf. I'm part of it. Gordon Feingold here. Hi, Gordon. TJ Schembecker's not on the list, but he's webmaster for the region stuff. Roger Whittier, who is interested in using this upgrade to be able to catalog and publish more tech information. So those are the key people. We keep Andy apprised because we want to make sure he's not too surprised. So we have a group of people that are looking after the interests of the COPA membership. And so if you have some burning desire to see this web infrastructure do something that it's not doing now, or continue to do something that's important to you, take advantage of the fact that TJ and Gordon and Andy are here to be able to talk about the design requirements that you think COPA needs to work on. Steve Lynn isn't here, I believe. Is that correct? Well, Steve Lynn is the webmaster who helped create the original COPA presence on the web. Clyde Stubbs had created sr20.org, and that was the origin of the interest by owners and operators of Cirrus aircraft. But cirruspilots.org was a web presence that Steve was critical in building on an open source platform. He was gifted at being able to work with the databases underneath that to be able to run the organization. And you know, we're a $500,000 organization that works with one office manager, and everything else is done through this automated infrastructure. It's pretty amazing. It had a customized back end for dealing with that process, but it had no clear upgrade. So in 2008, COPA 2.0 web infrastructure was implemented using a commercial community server software platform. And we had volunteer management. Tim Giesler was the webmaster. There was a commercial software developer, Kodo Solutions, who adapted that platform for our customized processes. And in particular, dealing with this membership administration for paid and keeping track of various privileges that people had as members. And then that really generated some flack when it got introduced. And one of the things that we had in the old version that we added back in COPA 2.1 was the red numbers. You know what I mean when I call it red numbers? It's all the stuff that's new. And it was a fascinating glitch to realize that's how people in the COPA forums kept track of new stuff. Well, move forward, the status quo as we go into this upgrade, we're running on community server circa 2008, which they now call CS 4.0. Oh, by the way, they're currently releasing CS 7.5, and they've officially end-of-lifed support for CS 4.0. So, you know, we're kind of forced to. How do you keep the infrastructure going without, well, you have to move forward. And, you know, the requirements were pretty obvious if you've been on the COPA forum and people have been muttering about how to find things. Well, the search, Curt has a tactful way of saying this, a lousy search engine. No real content management system, which is tech speak for it's hard to update things. No wikis. We tried it with MediaWiki instantiation, and that didn't work so well. And no real support for mobile devices, although Mark Alexander, is it Alexander? And Clyde Stubbs have created apps for the iPhone and the Android families. So we have access to the forum content, but that's not an ingrained capability of the current platform. So we're upgrading. And we have an expectation that this will be part of the path we're on. We'll get a vastly improved search. If you're familiar with the term faceted search, it's a way to know how to filter down search requests to get to the thing you're interested in. Roger's interest in curated tech notes, building on the experiences of the Cessna pilot forum and the Bonanza people. Maintaining the existing workflows, meaning how do people find things in the current website? And it's kind of like moving that into the new platform. Enhanced mobile and touch support, so your iPad working on the Cirrus pilot's website will work better. Improved badging. Turns out we have an interesting story about the recognition where we use badges on the COPA forum to identify what people's roles in the community are, or acknowledging the number of CPPPs they've attended. And so we have an expectation that that's going to get vastly upgraded, and we can do things more with what regions you're in, or what activities you've done on the forum, or what activities you've done outside in COPA activity, fly-ins, for instance. An enhanced event calendar, so TJ will be able to commingle a whole bunch of things from various sources. Ability for less than webmasters to be able to update content. There's such a diverse community that it would be appropriate to divide that up into you have responsibility for some areas of the web content. And auto-renewal, which is a tag phrase for how the membership process works. In addition, the platform we go to will bring to us hashtag support, which is a key way to find things in the modern social media world. How to make this post a wiki entry so that you can take well thought out posts that you like and cause it to be something that is then the basis for making a editable contribution that can be kept up to date. A concept called reputation management, if you know of that on some websites, those people that other people follow, or that they say interesting things you'd like to know more about what they say in the future. Reputation is something. A button to indicate that you, quote, like. We have a little problem with the word like. It's not a good word when talking about accidents. So we'd like to see that change to something, either the thumbs up, thumbs down, or concur, meaning you sort of read it and you think this is much better than the posts that say that in words. Much of the customization for things like web designs, theming, membership directories, bulk emails, the things probably most COPA members have no idea, except where did this come from? And so there are a bunch of tools in the infrastructure that are critical for keeping the workload down. Email digests, automatic related content links, so the search is kind of active on every post. Autosave for when you're typing in that long post and something glitch happens. And multiple file uploads, making it easier for Dennis to put 2 pictures on each. Yeah. So we're in the design phase, there's an implementation phase, there's a porting and cutover. This is a fairly major software engineering project, $300,000 scale of investment in this infrastructure. We're in the design phase. We discovered a few things that slowed us down. We've designed a whole bunch of screens. We've had arguments and discussions back and forth about what's the functionality behind the look. So we're doing that design phase as kind of, it's not a paper design, but it's a PDF design of what it looks like. We plan to port the red numbers, maintain the workflow. We're doing some changes to the way the paid membership administration happens. New group and forum structures is code phrase for, we think this will move us into the future of what type clubs like COPA grow into. And a new site index for content, better ways to find things. Given all of that work, we have an implementation phase that was planned to start in July. Gee, that's like next week. So sometime soon, the implementation will happen, and that's the coding and the plans for porting, how we script stuff. I mean, we've got a multi-gigabyte repository of Dennis's pictures. But you know, if you actually look at the thread counter, we have, you know, a huge number of historical posts, and it's actually fun to realize you can go back to 2001 when this organization started and find some of those seminal posts that talk about the experiences way back when. Then there will be a porting cutover phase in the September-October timeframe, and be warned, you hear this first, there will be a quiet period, so plan your vacations when you hear about this. And no accidents in that time, please. So we don't have a lot of COPA forum content, because it'll take a while from when we get the content copied over to when all of the things are put in place to be able to function in that interregnum period. That's Latin for it's screwed up. In that period, there's kind of a no man's land, and so it's not in the old system and it's not yet in the new system. And we did this the last time, and it's an important concept to be able to say, calm down, folks, it'll be there, and then open it up a few days later. The other functions will still be there, the registration system, the events, the region site. We're 50% through phase one. We start coding in July. We have a budget. We've discovered some things, as I say. Once you start saying we want to run the organization on this web infrastructure, you start to realize how many other things attach themselves to the web infrastructure that we've got right now. This is what it will look like. So these are two design phase pages. On the left is the welcome the splash page for non-members, and so it's an attempt to invite them in. And so you can imagine TJ, Gil, this is the place to come up with the messages and to get them on there. On the right is a member where you've got a login, and the things about you and what you're interested in become the splash page for the things that you're involved with. And a powerful search. Just be impressed that this is all about a whole variety of things. And the top example is Wiggly Stick, which now that we've got digital autopilots, doesn't happen much anymore. But for us guys that fly old airplanes, this is a common problem with the way in which the autopilot rolls the airplane. Well, this search on a port is an example of a much more effective results page and a much more effective. On the left side, you see a whole bunch of clickable tags, and you can identify what kinds of things you're looking for. You see it commonly on catalogs on the web, bringing that to a search capability on our site. So the intent, positioned this infrastructure upgrade to position COPA for the next 5 years, and to increase the value, you heard Gil, create an experience that welcomes people and gives them an opportunity to participate, and then retain the essential characters. Whoa, that's an interesting slip. Retain the interesting characters in our organization and our community, as well as the characteristics of that experience. With that, a new experience. Andy?
Thanks a lot, Rick. It is a amazing undertaking to move us to COPA 2.5, and as you can see, I think the result's going to be a terrifically easy to navigate, easy to read situation. And do understand that it takes about 5 COPA members to screw in a light bulb, 1 to screw it in, and 4 to talk about how much better the old light bulb was. But I assure you, the COPA 2.5 light bulb is going to be a way cool deal. We've got some new initiatives that we're working on. I want to introduce today just a brief teaser, because we are exploring the possibility. Notice the amorphous words, and I use those very advisedly. We are beginning to look at developing a serious, and I emphasize the word serious, training program that will hopefully, in the very near future, possibly 2015, lead to a Cirrus formation flight arrival at Oshkosh. It will come under the direct tutelage development of Mike Radomsky, our President Emeritus. It will be rigorous. It will be baby step by baby step. The very first thing he has to do is figure out how he wants to do it, exactly the syllabus, then find the trainers, train the trainers, and then find the people willing to commit to the discipline required to make this happen. How many people here went to Pensacola the other day? Were you impressed by the level of intense professionalism that was shown?
Yep.
Expect that if you expect to fly formation every single day. So we're working on it. We look to roll it out, and you can be assured, everybody who knows Mike, this will be thorough, this will be exact, and this will be a heck of a lot of fun if we can pull it off. We've already done 2.5. That's the other big initiative that we got. So we get to move on now to the best part of the morning, at least for me. Some recognition, duly earned recognition to you. I mean, it's you folks. The first thing I do want to take a short moment to recognize the people, the organizations who help make migration affordable. I know what the budget is for migration. It isn't small. This isn't how are we going to get the hot dogs and who's going to go to the market to get some more buns, and are we going to serve baked beans this time? And I think you all figured that out. It's the sponsors who really help make all of this happen. So again, I want to join with Craig in recognizing Continental Motors, the Mobile Bay Convention and Visitors Bureau, who really went all out to bring us here. Cirrus Aircraft and Garmin, great COPA Cabana. Wow, thanks guys. We've all got those great Cirrus bags. Aviation Tax Consultants and Avidyne, they have all really contributed to help make migration an incredible event. I also want to take a little bit of time to recognize one of our most steadfast supporters of COPA since the beginning, and a group who has been at every single migration, Nation Air Insurance, who has been very great for providing us advice, suggestions, ideas. They've been with us all along, and I also want to recognize them. And also Village Press, who provides things like the great Cirrus Pilot magazine. So a hand definitely for all of them. Curt promised me he was going to be here. He assured me he was going to be here. He emphasized to me that he was going to be here. So, Curt, you're having your breakfast this morning. How are you? Paybacks. Curt, I'd like to present to you this plaque from the Cirrus Owners and Pilots Association to Curt Sanford in recognition of your outstanding leadership as COPA's president, 2007 to 2012. You got to come to Duluth to get it, buddy. And Curt, by the way, we also, as a board, had elected to give you something extra special besides this. You fly a twin turbine aircraft. We wanted to give you a real jet ride in Steve Greenbird's L-39, but you had to be here in Mobile to get it. So all y'all's out of luck. The next person I would like to recognize is more than just a fellow board member, but also a friend, an advisor, somebody who I could call every so often and say, does this look nuts to you? And she, bless her heart, would tell me, yeah, you're out of your mind. Carol, please come up. I want to present you with our deepest appreciation for your outstanding service and dedication to the Board of Directors from 2007 to 2013.
Thank you.
In fact, I now will have her say some short words. Short words.
Did you know about this? Okay, I'm just checking, just checking. Okay, otherwise you kept a really good secret. Well, I want to thank you. As I said earlier, I have really enjoyed being on the board and having an opportunity to especially do the critical decision-making seminar. It's something very near and dear to me. I love this organization. I love the people I get to meet in this organization, and I just thank you all very much.
The root word of humanitarian is the word human. And what we do best, I think, is interact with each other, human to human. Sometimes it's a line boy rushing into a flaming aircraft to drag people to safety. Sometimes it's a guy who brings people together to take aid and comfort and relief to those who cannot have it. Sometimes it's more personal. Sometimes it's a COPA member recognizing we have another COPA member who needs a hand, needs assistance, needs something from another pilot, from another COPA member, and reaching out not on a grand level or on an act of heroic proportions in the classic sense, but more on the human side. Most recently, one of our own found themselves in a very dark place in their lives. And there, at the right place, at the right time, was another COPA member, reaching to them on the one-on-one human scale. We read about it, we saw it, we participated in our unique online community with it. But we had a member who was in the right place at the right time for the right reasons. And because of that, the COPA Board of Directors would like to present this year's Humanitarian Award to Pierre Redmond for his assistance. I'll just read this very briefly because it says it all. Cirrus Owners and Pilots Association, the Walt Kruger Spirit of Service Award honors Pierre Redmond for his unselfish devotion to the well-being and health of a fellow pilot in his time of need. Pierre.
Thank you, Andy. I didn't prepare anything. I love COPA. I think you know that. And I want to thank everybody. I don't know what it was last I looked, 40,000 views on that thread. And it's that kind of support that made it, actually made it very easy, made it very, very rewarding for me to go help Stuart. And it was very rewarding for me. I learned a lot. I think two words came to mind was humanity and humility, and that is to have the humanity to lend a hand when you need to, and to have the humility to accept one when you need it, which we all will at various times in our lives. And you guys made it all very, very, very rewarding for me. Thanks a lot.
We're running a little bit long, but I do want to take the time. The board wants to take the time. If you have any questions you'd like to ask of us here today now, before we take a very short break before our annual safety review, please feel free to ask now. In the back. And louder because we can't hear you.
Probably 80% of the people in this room haven't used iPads. It's time to make that paper magazine go away. Or their option is to have us make it like so we save money, a lot easier to read. What are the possibilities of making that happen?
Possibilities are there. We're working on getting back to making sure every issue is available in PDF format. For work like that. Interesting thing is, not that very long ago, we did an extensive customer survey, and we found the vast majority of COPA members read the magazine far more than actually participate on the forums. So they like having that magazine because, as we all know, there are certain places where we may not have connectivity where we might like to sit and read. But we will make, work on that, and that is, one of the things that is a consideration, absolutely. Anything else? Quick? Yeah.
Yes, last year, at this time, we asked about where the migration was going to be held, and we learned it was going to be held in Mobile, Alabama. And so I asked the question, has it been decided? And if it hasn't been decided, will you allow the membership to have some input or vote or whatever, or where the migration would be next year?
I'd like to introduce to you the migration chairman, Albright.
Thanks, Andy. We haven't decided where it's going to be next year, and what we'll probably do is the planning committee will winnow it down to a handful of potential places, and then I'll put it out in the forum, and we'll do some kind of poll.
And have we considered moving it from a summer to either a fall or spring? So I mean, I think the weather would make it more. You could move it more easily around the country if instead of a summer, which is some limited. Any kind of thought about moving it?
Yes, we have. Doesn't mean we're going to, but we have thought about it. The primary reason it's held in the summer is that some of us still have kids, and taking a long weekend, or in this case, an entire week, looks a little bit more like a vacation. And what do you do with the kiddos if it's during the school year? So that's been a motivating factor. However, this year we really only have 2 kids enrolled in Camp COPA, so we're going to be reconsidering.
But that's not because we don't have kids.
That's true. I'm sure that some of us still have kids, or we're going to have a dwindling pilot population, and we're. So actually, for those of us that can or want, get busy. We need more pilots.
Gordon. Yeah, I got one. The Gordon, you bring the thong.
I did not bring the phone, no. I wanted to thank Gil for his work on the membership retention and membership outreach and so forth. I wanted to mention something that Gil didn't mention, which is a pretty astonishing statistic, and that is if you look at our membership number, our total number of members with relative to the total number of aircraft, that this organization represents something like 70% of the outstanding aircraft. And that, to give you an idea of context, I believe that the members for the Cessna Association and Bonanza Association is something like 10 to 15%. So everybody's kind of scratching their heads going, how do these guys do this? You have 70% of the aircraft. And I just wanted to thank all of you, because having been there sitting on that, at that table, I know how much work it is. And I really want to, again, if everybody really thank all of you for all the work you do to make that happen, and Gil especially. So,
And thanks to you, Gordon, and all of you guys. I want to thank everybody who came before us, because we're just building on the incredible success you made. Before we take a short break, is there any, Carrie?
As everybody knows, our next event will be Oshkosh. Wednesday night is the dinner. There's also an air show Wednesday night. The dinner will start earlier so that everybody can get out in time to see the air show. We do have 1 hotel room left for the week. we can break it up. So if you want a room at the Hilton Garden Inn on the field, nothing is cheap at Oshkosh. Contact me.
Thank you, yeah. And I will be at that Oshkosh dinner, so you'll have a chance to again tell me what we should be doing. And I will volunteer you. I think there was one more question in the back. I thought I saw. Okay. Rick, how much time you want to give him? 5 minutes? 10 minutes?
How quick can you get them back?
Yeah, we're going to start right back to the safety. So take a very quick break, and we'll see you then. Thank you all very much.
That's impressive, yeah. That was good.
Expecting us to be back up here.
No, no. Sit in the crowd now. Yeah, this is